Now we're going to take a look at the instruction domain, in particular Dimension 2.3 Communication. We'll start by looking at the definition, which is in the top left-hand corner of the rubric, and states, for Dimension 2.3 Communication, the teacher clearly and accurately communicates to support persistence, deeper learning, and effective effort. We'll begin by looking at the proficient column because remember, a proficient teacher is a rock-solid teacher in your classroom. You would love to have a building full of teachers that are teaching at this level. So now let's look at each of these descriptors and we're going to unpack or deconstruct this rubric. I'll be highlighting the keywords and verbs as we go through each of the descriptors. So the first one states that the teacher establishes classroom practices that provide opportunities for most students to communicate effectively with the teacher and their peers. The teacher recognizes student misunderstandings and responds with an array of teaching techniques to clarify concepts. So she or he has a variety of ways to clarify as they teach. The next descriptor, the teacher provides explanations that are clear and uses verbal and written communication that is also clear and correct. The teacher asks remember, understand, and apply level questions that focus on the objective of the lesson and provokes discussion. And finally, this teacher uses probing questions to clarify and elaborate the learning. Next, we're going to move over to the left, which is the accomplished teacher. And many of these descriptors have some of the same language, so I'm going to only highlight where I see differences. So the accomplished teacher, this teacher establishes classroom practices as well that encourage all students to communicate effectively, including the use of visual tools and technology with the teacher and their peers. This teacher not only recognizes but anticipates possible student misunderstandings and proactively develops techniques to address the obstacles to the learning. This teacher provides explanations that are clear and coherent and uses verbal and written communication that is also clear and correct. The next descriptor, asking questions at the creative, evaluative, and/or analysis levels that focus on the objective of the lesson and provoke thought and discussion. So it goes a little deeper than the proficient level teacher. Skillfully uses probing questions to clarify, elaborate, and extend the learning. So they're taking the learning a little further. And finally, provides wait time when questioning students. So you notice this list is a little bit longer because there's a little more detail to what's happening in this classroom, as is a little more detail to what's happening with my highlighting. So hang on one second. Okay, now we're going to move over to the distinguished teacher, and again I'm going to highlight the things that are different. So the distinguished teacher establishes classroom practices that encourage all students to communicate safely and effectively. So we see the added word safely, using a variety of tools and methods with the teacher and their peers. So again, we have that variety of tools, and this time the the added word methods. Next, uses possible student misunderstandings at strategic points in the lessons, highlighting misconceptions and inspiring exploration and discovery. The next one is exactly the same, provides explanations that are clear and coherent, and uses verbal and written communication that is clear and correct. Moving on down, ask questions at the creative, evaluative, and/or analysis levels that require a deeper learning and broader understanding of the objective of the lesson. So again, it's going deeper with the learning at a higher level of understanding. And then this teacher skillfully balances wait time, questioning techniques, and integration of student responses to support student-directed learning. So this teacher has become very skilled at the pacing of the activities, the lesson, and knows when to move back and forth between the different aspects of teaching. And then finally, this teacher skillfully provokes and guides discussion to pique curiosity and inspire student-led learning of meaningful and challenging content. So notice the list gets longer as we move from proficient to accomplished to distinguished. Now we're going to go over to the developing column, and again I will highlight the differences between the proficient teacher and the developing teacher. So the developing teacher leads lessons with some opportunity for dialogue, clarification, or elaboration. The teacher recognizes student misunderstandings but has a limited ability to respond. The teacher uses verbal and written communication that is generally clear with minor errors of grammar. And this teacher asks remember and understand level questions. That focus on the objective of the lesson but do little to amplify discussion. And then moving further right again, the improvement needed teacher directs the lessons with little opportunity for dialogue, or clarification or elaboration. The teacher is sometimes unaware of or unresponsive to student misunderstandings, uses verbal communication that is characterized by inaccurate grammar, written communication that may have inaccurate spelling, punctuation, and structure. And this teacher also rarely asks questions, or they ask questions that do not amplify discussion or align to the objective of the lesson. So one other thing to take note of, and you see this at the end of each of your dimensions in your rubrics, at the bottom you see where it says teacher-centered actions. This is aligned under the improvement needed teacher, and then if you look to the far left, you see the student-centered actions aligned under the distinguished teacher. So as you unpack these rubrics, what you're going to see as you move from the right to the left, all the descriptors move from being very teacher-centered toward becoming very student-centered. There are also a list of look-fors that are aligned to each of these rubrics that is kind of your little short list of what to look for each of the dimensions, and we will also share those with you.